Today we're talking about Firefly Aerospace, ticker symbol FLY, the up-and-coming space and defense company that just dropped its Q3 earnings, and trust me, this one changes everything. Revenues have exploded, contracts landed, and guidance stayed alive. If you're looking for a space stock with serious momentum backing it, you need to see what just got revealed. Let's jump in. Firefly Aerospace is a US-based space and defense technology company that builds launch vehicles, lunar landers, and orbital spacecraft. They're playing in the small/medium lift launch market and are increasingly working for government and commercial customers such as NASA. What makes this interesting is that they're not just launching rockets, they're also building the spacecraft and delivery systems for high-profile missions, including lunar work, which gives them a differentiated profile in the space economy. So when they released the Q3 results, it really mattered, and as we see, the stock is currently trading at around $22 a share after hours, and it's showing real growth and winning big contracts this quarter, which is some of the things I want to point out. The headline is that they reported the Q3 earnings and the revenue jumped up 98% sequentially and 38% year over year. These are absolutely massive gains on the year, and it really shows that there's a bump in the space economy and that they have room to scale, especially as we see companies like Rocket Lab and Lunar getting more contracts. It is nice to see Firefly creating a footing in its own market. They also closed the acquisition of SciTec, which secured an upsized 260 million revolving credit facility, and this is important because it's delivering rockets and spacecraft to support national security, exploration, and commercial missions. This is absolutely big news, and I think it shows it's a test to as well why they got awarded this contract, which will be important for the company in terms of liquidity and future negotiation contracts. So as not only this, I want to point out that they also in this quarter have landed a 176.7 million Ghost mission for lunar payload delivery award, plus a 10 million add-on for Blue Ghost mission 1. They reaffirmed their guidance as well, but the main thing is that this NASA award has kind of gone under the carpet, and I think it's finally coming to light now, and this is absolutely big news. No other companies are really working this hand in hand with NASA. The closest I can think is of Lunar, and they have been having issues as well on the stock price, which is kind of where I get to today with Fly, because the stock has been beaten down very hard. But I think this recent earnings has kind of readjusted the guidance, as well as we've seen this guidance of 150 to 158 million. I think this means for the stock that the market tends to reward companies that can convert growth and contracts into credible revenue pipelines. So this kind of jump and the government contract wins give Firefly a momentum and execution narrative, which is very rare in the space business, especially at its current scale. So I think we are still in this innovators bubble, which is something I want to point out, and I think there's a lot of room for growth here on this curve. As well as I want to point out the key numbers. Revenue growth of 98% sequentially and 38% year over year. That shows extreme acceleration. It suggests that Firefly's business, whether launch or spacecraft delivery or lunar delivery, is ramping up in a very meaningful way. Not only this, but the major contracts of the NASA awards signal credibility. A 177 million contract is not small change. It increases the backlog that the company has. It raises expectations for future revenue and validates Firefly as a player in the lunar delivery and space domain mission space as well, because there's so much competition right now. Everyone's talking about different stocks on the space ecosystem, everything, but I think this is one that might be finally standing out as a buy or maybe getting close to it. So closing, not only this, but the closing of the SciTec, as we've seen for financial positioning, I think was absolutely massive because it gave them the 260 million revolving credit line, which gives them more scale and liquidity. For a business like this, liquidity and backlog matter a lot. When flight operation costs tens of millions, you want cash in the contract spine behind you, which is exactly what this has provided for the company, and I will continue to provide in the future. Also, we see the full year guidance reaffirmed at 150 to 158 million. This is important because even though they're burning and losing money right now, they're still showing a very large net loss. I think that Their reaffirming guidance gives the market confidence that they're on track to set new precedents and continue to expand in the future. Obviously, there is risks with this stock, and there's a lot of execution risks. We've seen this year that the main reason the stock has tumbled almost 70% since its IPO has been due to these failed launches. And I think once they can figure this out, and once we see the story start to come to light in execution, I think the hardware and everything will show that this is a promising company because the numbers are strong. They're winning contracts and building infrastructure. The runway looks promising, but because it's still a growth and execution story rather than a mature and profitable business, it's very high risk, high reward, which brings me to the sentiment. I haven't seen, don't have much conversation about it by retail on typical forums like Reddit or stock twits, but when I did go into the stock twits, which I was looking at, they are very bullish, and the contract wins and revenue growth are positive catalysts for investors looking at the space plays. The market may be looking for evidence that the next flight goes off without a hitch, and if it does, the stock could get a boost. If there's a delay or a mishap inside of the launch, then the risk is very real though. And another thing I want to point out is that a majority of the shares, almost half of the float, is owned by just two big firms, which have these shares locked up for a year term, which came with the IPO, which makes me a little bit worried on the investing side because these big firms can obviously pull out their money whenever scot free. And in terms of this sentiment, while Firefly is less followed than all the major players, gaining these large NASA awards and being active in the lunar delivery should attract more analyst coverage and institutional interest, which tends to improve liquidity and create more institutional outreach. So, from a sentiment lens, yes, the wins are favorable for the company coming into this quarter, but they need to ride them strongly, and execution will be very important coming into the next couple months. So, technically speaking, looking at the chart, we've seen the stock is up after hours, but if we go into the longer term chart, we could see it has just been a constant downtrend. I could really zoom this chart out for a couple since the IPO here, and it's just been a constant down. And technically speaking, the price is not the driver; the fundamentals are. But the setup is becoming a little bit interesting. If the business fundamentals continue to hold and we see more contracts land, more successful launches, the lunar lander missions, then you'll likely see a breakout of the stock as the market re-rates it from this space setup right now to a real business that has current standings in the market. This company is winning NASA contracts and flying missions rather than just being a launch provider. So key execution levels to watch is the Alpha Flight 7 launch. See if it happens as promised. Are the Blue Ghost and Elytra missions milestones being met? And how will the market interpret the reaffirmed guidance? Will they view the target as conservative or ambitious? I think the post earnings spike has kind of shown where it stands, and it kind of has consolidated here at this $17 to $20 range, which is where I think there is some strong resistance, and I see limited downside unless, as I said previously, that those two big institutions don't sell their shares. But the low side I see as 16 here, right below the bottom ticker, and then on the upside I can see it hitting back all the way up into the $28 range by the end of the next year for the price target. So when it comes down to Firefly, I believe this earnings release is a real game changer. The jump in revenue and the NASA contract really improved liquidity. This means that the company is stepping up in terms of the market, and it's following other companies inside of the market that have also been moving up. If execution holds, the stock could become one of the standout small cap and defense picks this year. My caveats are because they're still unprofitable, and as much hardware execution and software that there's still a lot of risk, and a delay or a test failure could send the stock back a lot in the short term. So personally, I view this as high conviction, but still very high risk on the trading sphere. If I'm not saying go all in because it's not risk free, I'm saying it belongs on your radar, especially if you like space stocks, lunar usable delivery, and government contracts that are backing this up. If I were allocating, I might treat this as a core speculative space provider play, just a little position in your portfolio rather than the majority of my portfolio. But to wrap it all up, I think that Firefly Aerospace just delivered a quarter that supports an ungraded narrative growth with contracts and liquidity. The key takeaways are that the story has worked. The next step is making this execution and making it deliver on their promises. If they succeed on operational milestones, the valuation could re-rate meaningfully in the next coming months and year. Monitor the upcoming flight, mission milestones, and contract fulfillments closely. I will be watching Fly closely. If you like this breakdown, make sure you guys drop a like in the YouTube sphere. Make sure you drop a comment. Make sure you guys subscribe. I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you. Take care. Peace.